Hello, so this is the continuation of my previous vlog. The title is The Signs That I Prayed For and Dreams. So, continuation to how I deepened my faith. So, yeah, lots of different things, online preaching and everything that I keep talking about over and over again. Um, because those are the things that shape me, those are the things that help me. I even thought to myself that Joel Austin, he was my KISA, my knight in shining armor. So I thought that he was my guide, that everything that he was preaching is directly directed at me, that it was aimed for me. Although I know it's not, because there's a lot of different listeners, um, there's a lot of different members of the church, that it's for everybody. If you're going through different season of your life, it's very relatable, especially to me. I felt like it was a fuel to keep me going. So I was very dependent. I was very dependent to his preaching. I felt like my day is not complete without listening to his preaching. Like, you know, I felt like every day, this is my it feels like it was my daily dose of positivity. Like, I have to hear something positive. That's also when I started, reprogramming my mind to be positive, that the power of I am powerful, I am magnificent, that I am beautiful, I am powerful, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So that's when I started thinking about, positivity, and programming my mind to think that everything is possible within the reach of your hand if you put your mind into it. That every dream that you have, if you're really serious and you have your eye and your focus, your right intention towards it, it will happen, as long as you work hard for it, and God will send you a divine connection. That's the kind of confidence that I have. Until such time that I felt like, doing self-study is not enough. I have to be part of the community. I have to be part of a church. I have to meet a fellow Christian, because, as the Bible said, iron sharpens iron. Therefore, I had to go out and prepare myself, get myself ready to be part of the community, as I am assimilating to the new state. So I prayed hard for it, until one day, one of my clients, one of the regular customer of Huntington, visited, and she do transaction at at the branch, and she was also a member of the church. She was, I forgot her position, but she was a member of the church. She was also volunteering as, I believe she was a secretary or a treasurer. She was doing her transaction. And then I saw on the envelope that she was holding, so there's an envelope. I think it was one of the envelope that they have at the church. There's a dove. There's a picture of the dove, and it says, "On Fire Ministry." And I was like, oh my God, this is the sign that I was looking for, because I was praying for a dove. And this church has a picture of the dove. I felt like maybe this is God's way of saying that this is it. This is your opportunity to meet Christian, to be part of a community, to deepen your faith, and for you to assimilate, to be part of a group, and to start meeting new people, start being friendly, start thinking outside your box, get out of your comfort zone. So that's when I met Sister Carolyn. So Sister Carolyn, she's also a volunteer at the church, and she's a regular member of On Fire Ministry. And I can't remember if she's the one who started and initiated the invitation, or I asked her. I think I asked her, where is your church located, and something like that. Until she asked for my number. I also have her number, and she sent me a message. She texted me. She texted me, and she invited me that you can join our church, and that's how it started. I believe I went to the church first around March. It was March when I first met um, the member of the church. March, I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was the 6th of March, if I am not mistaken. I had to double check the date, but it was March of 2022. So I wasn't driving at that time. I was commuting. I was taking Uber, Lyft, or ride a bus. So Sister Carolyn introduced me to the church. I was very excited because I was like, oh my goodness, it's um, aside from working, because I already had a job in Minnesota, I get to be part of the community. So this, we're starting good. I am starting good at this new state. Everything is turning out positive. It's different from my life in Florida, where I have to consult my husband for in everything that I'm doing. And I felt like I can be the best version of myself, because I always have to walk on eggshell. And it's uncomfortable. You have to consult him in everything that you're doing, and sometimes we were not on the same page. So anyway, there you go. So I started joining the church, and I met the pastor for the first time. And his name is Pastor Mike. The first time that I saw him, I didn't expect him to be, he was very approachable, very friendly, and he preached differently. And he's very accommodating, and very welcoming. It's probably, I don't know if he knew that Sister Carolyn invited me. But anyway, I did not talk to him that time. But um until such time that Sister Carolyn has been very consistent of sending me messages. She also invited me to attend Bible study on Wednesdays, and we also have prayer on Friday. So, or Wednesday or Friday, I think every Wednesday. I think, yeah, every Wednesday or Friday, something like that. So we have prayers, and we also have Bible study. And she invited me, and sometimes I would go, but not very consistently, because I was also working. Until my some of the church member would help me with my transportation instead of me commuting and taking Uber and Lyft. They would volunteer to bring me home. Sister Carolyn, and sometimes Mama D, she's also a member of the church, and with her daughter Shani, and her grandchild or grandchildren, Ray Ray, and we have Ray Ray and Gracie Boo. So, after church service, they would send me home. So I don't have to worry about commuting. So they would send me home. We would have lunch, and then take me home to my godmother's house. So I started becoming more, a lot more happier. I started becoming more confident about the new state, that oh my god, I feel welcome. I feel so welcome here. It feels so good. It feels so positive to be part of the new state. Like everyone is welcoming me. I don't feel like being an outsider. Everyone is nice. Like even if I go to the mall, it's a mix of different cultures that I'm seeing. Like I'm seeing Asians, Ethiopians, um, from different walks of life, from different part of the world, all together in Minnesota. There's a lot of different culture, different of races in Minnesota, which makes me feel more comfortable, because I am not an outsider. This is where I belong, where everyone is welcome. I always told myself this, and even my godmother's husband, Greg, I told him how much I like Minnesota, that the weather is cold, but the people are warm. And I think he felt flattered about it that I'm liking Minnesota, because they did a great job of showing me the beauty of Minnesota and how welcoming the people are. So there you have it. And then that was also the time that I've been noticing that my godmother, I don't know, maybe she felt like I am spending more time with these new friends that I have, with the new church member that I met at On Fire, On Fire Ministry. I felt like, maybe it's just me, but at the time I felt like she doesn't like the idea of me, you know, being part of another community, and she's not part of it. I mean, I invited her every now and then to join the church, but she declined the invite, and which I don't blame her. I don't take any resentment towards her because of it. Um, so that was that. And then at that time, my godmother was also, distant, and then my mom would say that, hey, your godmother is sending me messages. She had a problem with you, and I was like, what's my godmother's problem with me? We're not even talking or arguing. I am not doing anything bad. I was just at the church. I was part of the new community. I'm with, the church members. And if I have free time, I would go out for a walk and take pictures of parks. That's pretty much what I was doing. I'm not even going out and meeting new, um, meeting bad influence in my life, for lack of a better term. But I don't know. I mean, my mom said that, she was sending her messages and saying that I was being a trouble to her life. That was a troublemaker, something along those lines. I mean, I didn't read the messages, but that's what my mom told me. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I maybe perception is reality, but God knows what I was doing. I'm not doing anything stupid. I'm not doing anything wrong. And if there's anything that my godmother told me in the past, she said that, Shirley, you're very intelligent. You're very intelligent. I think so highly of you, but when it comes to love, when it comes to love matters, when it comes to heart issue, when it comes to relationship, you are very stupid. She said that I'm very stupid when it comes to love matters, but I'm very intelligent, maybe academically or whatever it is. But when it comes to love, I was very stupid. That's what she said, that I can't remember. Anyway, I wasn't very mad about it. But anyway, I don't know what are the things that my mom received from her, but I felt like the reason why she wasn't very happy about it is because of the new friends that I've met. You know, I don't I don't think she's racist or anything, and I don't think that, I don't know, maybe it's just ignorance, or she doesn't know that there's also other people aside from the Filipino community. There's also other religion that we have. There's also Islam in Minnesota. There's Hmong community, which I fell in love with. I fell in love with the variety. I fell in love with the different cultures and the different different communities in Minnesota. That's one of the things that I've noticed about it. That, wow, I felt welcome. Everyone is nice. Everyone is kind. That um, aside from the Filipino community, there's also a lot of different communities that it's an opportunity for me to, you know, to be part of, to meet them, to learn from them, to not to be super friendly, but at least um, be culturally educated. So that's what I felt like missing with me when I was in Florida. I was very ignorant, so I was, it's a lesson learned for me to learn and understand other people's point of view. So there you go. And then, her moods are different each time. She would say nasty things towards me, like, things that I don't expect her to say. But I mean, I didn't, I took it as a mother's advice, just like sometimes my mom and I would argue. So I wasn't holding any grudge, and if she's saying something, I just keep my mouth shut. I'm not answering back. Maybe there's once or twice, but I never answered her back that will hurt her feelings. Maybe she was hurt, but it wasn't intentional, you know and and I have always been grateful of the way she treated me as her own kid, as her pamangkin, inaanak, whatever you call it. She loves, I know she has this girly side like me. She's also she has a kikay side like me too. She likes using different hair clip, the hair clip that you would use to clip your hair. And I felt like it was cute, it was very cute. And I felt like I thought to myself that, yeah, whatever is the color of your hair clip, that is my mood of the day. So every day she has different hair clip that I'm seeing it, that I'm seeing her use. And I thought to myself, it's kind of like my game in my mind, that whatever is my mood, that is the hair clip that she has. If she's wearing white, if she's wearing white hair clip, that is the color of the day. If she's wearing black clip, that's the color of the day. Whatever the emotion is attached to it, depending on my mood. But that was just, I don't know. That was just a game that I put in my mind. Like whatever hair clip that she has, that is my mood. Sometimes if she's wearing purple hair clip, then it's go Vikings. I was just being silly. But anyway, and then sometimes if she's mad, she would lock Juno. She would lock Juno in the laundry room. And I was like, maybe she doesn't want me to play with Juno. She doesn't want me to hang around with the cat, which probably why I got distant too, because I felt like, why are you, me, just because the cat is very nice to me, you're taking him away from me. But and then until such time that I don't know if we had a discussion about the cat, but the cat would intentionally visit the room, and play with me. And then I would buy Juno treats. I would buy him, treats and toys. And I don't know if they don't like it. And that's when I felt like they were taking the cat away from me. I don't know if she's jealous that the cat is super friendly to me, or but I was like, okay, I mean, it's your cat anyway. I'm not gonna mess around with Juno. I'm just gonna look at it, and then you know so yeah, very petty if you think about it. It's just a cat. I was like, you know so Juno. Very silly, isn't it? I always think Juno, Juno the cat. Um, oh well, he's the 16-year-old cute cat. I don't know if he's still alive, but anyway, so that's about it. And then I'm starting noticing something weird. Like, I was at that time, I was also talking to my best friends in the Philippines, Milika, Joshelle, um, Maika, my best friend for so many years, Ate Melissa, Ate Jenny, Rochelle. We would have video call. I would talk to some of the friends that I've had before. And I also have Kuya Jim, who's always there for me consistently, over the phone. He's making sure that I'm watching the online service. And then I have, and sometimes I would still talk to Donald. It was my former boss in Florida. I mean, not consistently. We only talk until February of 2022, until we completely stopped communicating. It was February 19, 2022, that we, you know, I and that we we said goodbye to each other. He said that let's not waste our time to get, let's not waste our time, because he's always there for me as a confidant. I always talk to him about the things that I had issue with, the things that I was going through, and maybe he thought at that time that, I am big enough to, or I am mature enough to, or I am strong and independent enough to keep, you know, to keep asking him for advice, to keep confiding to him about so many things about my life. Maybe it was like, we're better off not communicating. Let's not waste our time together. And that was it. That was the last time that I talked to him, February 19 of 2022. That was Donald. He was my former boss in Florida. So anyway, that's about it. And then going back to the church, so I started being consistent. Every Sunday I tried my best to go to the church. I was commuting, and I was meeting new church members. I mean, we weren't very close. Really, not everyone is my friend, but they're very friendly enough. It's not like every time we're having service that we're going out and hanging out after the service. It wasn't like that. Um, it's more of like what is the right word I'm looking. There's I had a trusted friend, Shani. She is an usher, and she's the one who taught me to serve the church and how to volunteer. So she was cleaning the church. She was doing the decoration. She's pretty much helping she's pretty much part of everything that she can be part of. I felt like, I don't know what was her position, but she was also leading the usher. And I volunteered as an usher as well. So I was ushering during the service, making sure that everyone is, seated properly. They're welcome. You're handing them the what do you call this? The program. You're handing them the program and the envelope for tithes. And sometimes, not all the time, but Shani taught me to speak at the front and tell the member of the church that, please stand. If you're Let's prepare for our tithes and offerings. So that's when I started being a volunteer at the church, being a volunteer at the church. So I was ushering. I was also, I was also helping with the little this and that at the church, and it feels good. It feels good to serve. It feels good to volunteer without expecting anything in return. Plus, you get to know more people there. You get to know more people there, and you get more confident and comfortable um, being alone, because you feel like you have a support, you have someone, you have a community backing you up. So that's when I felt very confident, and I trust. I've given my trust to the people I surrounded myself with. And then, you know um, at that time, since I never really had counseling after the divorce, I told myself that I need to find somebody to counsel me. I need to find a counselor, because I just went through a divorce. I want to make sure that I am emotionally and mentally prepared for the job that I was doing at the bank and as a member of the church. So I asked the church member, Sister Carolyn, if you know any counselor in Minnesota, or a therapist maybe, because I am going through divorce right now. I need to have a counselor. And then Sister Carolyn told me, she advised me that Pastor Michael he was also ordained. He was also ordained to be a counselor, so he can also be my counselor. So she volunteered Pastor Michael. So Pastor Michael, we would meet every now and then at the coffee shop at Caribou. He became my counselor. He was like my spiritual doctor at that time. I would talk to him about my life before, why I'm here in Minnesota. So we would meet and go out for a coffee, and he's nice enough, and friendly enough to, what do you call this? To teach me not just everything in the Bible, but also to teach me about the community, and to slowly help me to, you know, to what is there to stand up on my own. He drove me he drove me in Minnesota. He showed me the different faces of Minnesota. We went downtown. We went to Salvation Army. We went to, nice neighborhood, different lakes. We would go out. He would take me out for lunch. And then, yeah, that's when I started being confident again to meet friends. So Pastor Michael promised, I don't know if he told me directly, or he texted me. I can't remember. Exactly. I think he texted me, or he said it to me in person. He said that I will carry you. I will carry you until you're strong enough to be on your own. So, and that's what I felt at the time. I felt like he carried me. Um, um, he helped me. He helped me to be brave and to be strong. He helped me to be independent. He showed me to be confident driving. And then that's when I had a confidence to get a car of my own. So I got a car. Because I got my bonus, a referral bonus that I had a bonus. I think I had a bonus at the time for joining Huntington. So that's when I got that inspiration to get a car. So I got a car, and I got it at Inver Grove, Minnesota. Because I was looking, I was browsing online, and then that was also the time that I was moved to a different branch. So from the quarry branch, I was transferred to Roseville. So I was like, I need to get a car, and then that was also the perfect timing that I got my bonus. So that I was like, okay, I need to get a car. So I was looking up and then Googling, researching until I get this place called Inver Grove. So Inver Grove Toyota, I get my red car, and then, Mommy D and Shani helped me. They drove me until I get to my place, and then slowly but surely they were helping me drive. Pastor was helping me drive on the freeway. We were driving on the freeway. Sometimes Shani, they're very nice. They're very nice enough to help me. To help me be independent. I was very independent until I came to the point that I was ready to move to a new place. After 7 months of living at my godmother's house, I was independent enough to find a place of my own. I was able to get an apartment, and then I got a car. And then I was thinking of getting myself promoted to a new position at Huntington. It was my second branch already. I was able to get to another branch, and then, meet new people there again, a new world for me, a new world of adventure, and new world of, new connections and new adventure. And yeah, so that was the start. And then I moved to my apartment in New Brighton, and which is even a lot more fun. It was very quiet, very peaceful, close to Hansen Park, where I would go for a walk every now and then. I would pick flowers, enjoy the solitude. And every day at my apartment, I would meditate, I would pray, and lots of miracles happened. Even at my godmother's house, I felt like it was where miracle happened. The miracle happened there because that's when I dream. There's a lot of different dreams that I dreamed of when I was awake and when I was sleeping. And I told myself that one day this house is going to be a house filled with blessing, their house at Stinson. That's one of the prayers that I had before, that one day this place, this corner house at Stinson with my godmother, this is going to be appreciated. This is going to be blessed. And there's a lot of different prayers that I prayed, and I felt like every time I look at myself in the mirror, the world is looking at me as well. And that's when I conditioned myself that one day I am going to be on the stage and tell the world of how faithful God is and how much God loved me. You know, I was looking at myself in the mirror. It feels like it was a stage for me. It feels like a stage where I am preparing myself to talk, to be confident, to look presentable, to be beautiful in God's eyes. And that's, you know, that's when I keep building my confidence and learning to be independent, not not thinking that I can do everything on my own, but knowing that I am safe wherever I go, that I have an angel armies to guide me everywhere I go. And that is the power of that is the power of positive mindset. It makes a lot of difference when changing, you know, changing your the trajectory of the story, the narrative of your story, from being so negative to thinking about hope and future, and thinking about next step, thinking about a bigger picture in the future, that there is something, you know, there is something that you have a purpose that you have to fulfill, you have a destiny that you have to fulfill. So there you have it. Until, you know, until the next vlog, I'm going to talk to you about my search for my destiny man, oh, the destiny girl.